Hi everyone, this is Ricky Spencer and welcome to another episode of Quests by Community, Woman Jika, which is welcome. We are very privileged today because we're going to talk about one of my core areas that I'm kind of focusing on. That's the aged care and how we can really make lives better for those of us who are older. And today we have Andrea Kelly, who is a proud Warumungu and Larrakia woman with strong family connections throughout the Northern Territory. Andrea has relished a 30-year plus career in the Australian Public Service, working in both the Northern Territory and Canberra. Andrea has built productive professional relationships through her extensive experience across program implementation, service delivery, and policy development in both regional, urban, and remote contexts. Andrea is our current interim First Nations Aged Care Commissioner, quite a big mouthful, Department of Health and Aged Care, previously holding the positions of Group Manager, Eastern Group in the National Indigenous Australians Agency. A big welcome. Hi, Andrea, and thank you for coming on our show today.
Thanks for having me, Ricky. Wonderful to be here.
So get start with a bit of a background and experience. Can you share your journey as into what has led you to the role of becoming our First Nations Aging Commissioner?
As you said, I've spent 33 years working in the Australian Public Service through a number of areas. I started my career actually in early childhood, so now finding myself at the other end of the policy spectrum. But I saw this role advertised, and for me, it's really important to make sure that our elders and older people have an opportunity to be able to express their needs and what they need out of an aged care system. I think back to what my grandmothers and grandfathers had, and even now with my aging parents, just making sure that they've got what they need. In terms of them being able to age well, for them being able to stay at home. So, when I applied for this role, those things really, they were the really important things to me, just to make sure that our elders, our older people, have a system that works for them, a system that's really culturally safe, no matter where they live, whether they're in the cities or regional communities or remote communities, they have access to all of the important things that they need to age well.
And going along with that, what experiences have shaped your understanding of the unique challenges faced by our First Nation elders? And I'm hoping you can also mention a bit about the stolen generation, of which I'm sort of like a personal journey of mine.
So when I started in this role back in January this year, it was really important for me to go out and hear the experiences, and then the lived experiences of older Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, their families, their carers, the providers. So I undertook a process of 4 months intensive travel around the country, and again, I think I went to I held over 135 consultations, talked to close to 1,000 people. All of those, predominantly older Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and it's their voices, it's their information that I've captured about what they want from this system. And dear to my heart, also, the needs of stolen generation survivors. When I worked in the National Indigenous Australians Agency, I was instrumental in the development of the Territory Stolen Generations Redress scheme, which impacted, you know, um, families who, children were removed when they were young in the Northern Territory, the ACT and Jarvis Bay. So stolen generation survivors and their needs um, as they're aging was really, really important to me as well. So I had lots of conversation with stolen generation survivors, stolen generation organisations, the Healing Foundation, Kinchela Boys Home. So, really making sure that all the information I've captured isn't my words. It's the words of everyone I spoke to, and I'm pulling that together to go back to government and say to government, this is what all those people I've spoken to, this is what they've said to me. These are the things that they want to see in aged care to enable them to just, whether it's stay in their community or if our older people do end up in residential care, that they're getting the cultural support and the cultural safety that they need in any environment that they're part of.
What are the key priority areas that you aim to address during your tenure as a commissioner?
This position was called for out of the Royal Commission into aged care, and so the Royal Commission actually recognised that the system wasn't culturally safe for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, and recognised and recommended quite a number of changes to the aged care system. So, and that goes right through from legislation to policies to programs to the way that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are actually able to contribute to their ageing needs. So building on from what the Royal Commission said and hearing, like I said, I sat down and talked to a lot of Aboriginal people and what they said to me and what they'd seen. So part of my role is now to go back to government, and I've been working with the department, since I commenced in this role. So as I've heard things, I've gone back through to the department and said, these are the things that people are telling me. So I'm not waiting till the end of my job. I'm actually doing it as I'm going. To try and make sure that we do change the policies and programs. But again, not throwing everything out, building on some of the really good things that are happening out there, because I did see a lot of really good models of care for our mob. So, let's take those, let's build on those, let's invest in those, make sure that they're the things that government are looking to us saying, well, you know what you need. You know how to care for your communities. You know what they need as they age. Um, and again, your elders, your old people, you know what they need. So let's continue to build on that. So one of the things as part of my report back to government is looking at the system and saying it's not working. The Royal Commission said it's not working. These are the things communities have said to me, individuals who currently in the aged care system. These are the things that they want to see. So some of them, again, really picking up cultural safety. That's really, really important. People want to stay on country. They want to age on country. They want to die on country. And that was made really, really clear to me, particularly the part around dying on country. A lot of people said they don't want to go away for respite. They don't want to go off country for renal dialysis or
Mm.
hospital or residential. They really want to stay at home. So those things are really important. The other thing I found, Ricky, was the the system is so complicated and complex. Now we've got to change that. And I keep saying to people, if we change it for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, we're going to get it right for all Australians. So this isn't just about, saying we're special or we're unique. It's actually a really, really complicated, convoluted, unnecessary system that uses really big language, that uses a digital platform that no one can navigate. Even I can't, and I'd like to consider myself a little bit educated. I can't navigate it. So we've got to get better at doing these things, particularly for our mob and particularly for really vulnerable people in this country.
In the last couple of months, I've been actively working with a number of uh, focus groups and agencies to look at how can we develop a workforce, a future workforce in the aged care space. And I want to ask you, Andrea, what do you think that we could do to encourage those from mob who want to work in the aged care space? How can we create a safe space and help incentivize so that we can get more mob to work in aged care? And do you think that's an important priority for us?
That's really important. And again, that's something that I think governments struggle with. How do we get more of our mob working in, whether it's the aged care sector, health sector, the justice, system. One of the things I find, and what I've found as I've been going around is the 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 feeling and sense I get from talking to our old people, it's just so rewarding. And I think one of the things that we need to understand about the aged care system, and it's probably true for when we were younger, we saw our elders and our old people going into residential home, and that was always what aged care was considered, this residential home where the old people went, and often that's where they went to die. Aged care is so much more than that now. You can get support in the home, you can get support in your community, and of course there's still residential care. So we need to start talking about aged care differently. We can't keep talking about it just being a residential, that it's just residential. It's more than that. And we need to talk about it positively. We need to talk about it. It's about supporting our old people, and the things you learn from just you know being around your elders and being around old people all the time. And I and even today, I was thinking about my grandmothers again. um my great grandmother, she spoke fluent Warumungu, and she spoke the old Warumungu. But when she used to come and visit us, she'd be speaking in language, and we'd just be sitting there, thinking, oh, Nana's talking again. But you often think about now, I wish I paid attention. I wish I listened more to what she was saying at the time. So one of the things I really want to encourage our young mob today is, don't take that for granted, because they are, you know, they are everything that we are now. So we want to making sure that the young ones understand what aged care is, and that it's more than just residential, that they can be supported. It's a great career path, and they get to spend time with the old people and learn from them. I met with a young girl in she did work in a residential care service in Brisbane, and she was only young. And I asked her why she was working there, what attracted her to work there, and she said to me she had a choice of working in childcare or age. She chose aged care for that very reason, because she gets to spend every day with elders, and she said she loves it. But she also said she gets in trouble because she spends too much time talking to them and not enough time doing her job. So, um, but I think the incentive, yes, there's always money, there's always conditions, but the big thing for me is that just spending that time with our elders and learning, it's just really incredible. And I've learned so much over the last 10 months spending time with elders and going around the country and listening, really listening to them, sitting down with them and listening to them.
You have already enlightened us in some of the ways that, and you've highlighted the importance of understanding culture. I want to now ask you, how does cultural heritage influence the way First Nations elders approach aging?
We know that the social and cultural determinants of health are so important to us. It's our connection to our country, our communities, our family, just our kinships. All of those things are really important, and they play a really big factor in the way we age. Um, and a lot of the elders I talk to, particularly some of the ones up in the Western Desert and Central Desert communities, they don't want to leave their communities because they're worried about um, that breaking that connection. So again, really making sure that we have a system that looks after that. And if they have to go off country, how do we find ways to keep them connected? How do we find ways to get them back to country, even if it's every few months, so that they can go back, they can be with their families, they can see their families, um, be part of any, cultural business or sorry business or, law or whatever happens in their community. And we know also that a lot of our elders still play a big role as caregivers in their families, in their community, but also they're the ones who are always called on to be on board. Like as you are, Ricky. You still participate in your community. You do lots of things in your community for your community, and we know a lot of our elders, even if they are in residential homes, they're still connected back in their community, doing things in their community. So we've got to find a way to give them that opportunity to still participate in some of those cultural and community business activities that they do.
What role do traditional practices play in promoting the well-being of First Nation elders? And I'm just thinking, Andrea, perhaps with the people you've spoken to and yarn with, what can residential agencies do to support our elders who are in care spaces to really facilitate that intercommunication and connection with their communities?
Ricky, that again is really important, and I think a bit of this also comes to the Quality and Safety Commission too, when they do the accreditation of residential aged care. They also have a role to play in understanding um, some of those really important cultural aspects, and some of them aren't cultural. And just one example, when I was up in the Kimberley region, there was an elder who had just come into residential care, and he had never slept in a bed his whole life. He slept outside, and he slept on his mattress outside. So he gets put into residential care, and all of a sudden he's sleeping in a room with air conditioning, with a bed, and it's completely foreign to him. And you know, they're saying he's not behaving how someone should behave when they come into a residential setting. But they didn't take the time to understand where this old man came from as well, and what his needs were. So the residential service, uh, they they understood, they met his needs, they put mattress down, they lowered his bed, and he now does sleep in the bed, but it's really low, it's on the ground. But he sits outside all day on a mattress, and he's very happy and he's very comfortable doing that. So when the accreditation people come, that's considered not safe
Mm.
because he's down low, and but for him it is safe. For him, he's happy. So again, we're constructing these mainstream, you know, um, situations, and we're saying, well, you have to fit into that now. You're in our environment. You fit into that. Instead of going, well, this man's in his 80s. He's never slept in a bed. He's never sat in a chair. He's happy sitting on the ground. We just got to make sure that there's nothing dangerous around him and he's okay. Now, why can't we do that? Why do we got to tick the boxes and say, yes, he sits in the chair, he sleeps in the bed, he's wearing shoes? Um, so, again, let's take the system and the really good things in the system. And yeah, I'm not saying let's be, we don't want mediocrity at all for our mob, not at all. But we've got to have some common sense, and we've got to say, yes, he's safe at night, he's safe during the day, his family can visit, he's connecting with his community. But let's not put all these things around him so it then does become so sterile and in an environment where he's just not happy, and then he doesn't feel safe.
Everything you're saying, Andrea, it sort of resonates for me and some of the work that I'm doing at the moment in looking at how we can reimagine creating spaces of care for our mob. And one of the things I wanted to ask you too, I really want how we can somehow move towards encouraging more of our community, young people or older people, to re enter the fields of building and architecture, to become the designers of new spaces, about looking at ways of using the whiteness of the walls to open up windows to have air, because one of the things that when I've been working with older mob, as they say, the smell is something which is quite difficult to get used to. If we're used to the smells of bush food and tucker and just
Mhm.
going outside, and to all of a sudden be in a room full of antiseptic smell is quite foreign. It is quite frightening as well. um, do you see a place in part of your role to encourage planners and people from our community going to take on those skills to work alongside the planners and the architects to design more even comfortable furniture, or things that we can use, and maybe create the idea of outdoor space in indoor?
Wouldn't that be nice? And I saw a couple of examples, and like the new residential care on in Nullarbor, that one actually was designed by the community and by the residents, and that is a fantastic model of how you bring the outdoors in and how that community designed everything from what, right down to the furniture, to the native plants in the garden that, that they use, that they can cook with, um, to every aspect of that building, the way it faced. And when you look at it, from above, it is culturally significant to the elders as well. So it was designed with everything in mind. But the important thing, it was designed by the community and by the residents. Um, the At a lot of residential places I went to had outdoor fire pits, that they could um, turn into barbecues as well. A lot of activities in terms of bringing bush tucker in where they can. Residents would sometimes go out, whether it was goanna or kangaroo. They go out hunting for bush tucker in terms of seeds and leaves, and even do medicines. So again, there are some really, really good models out there that, that we can draw on, where people are doing these things and they're doing it safely, but they're doing it with mob. They're actually doing it with the elders. So, and their families, like their families are even participating in it, when they go out and do those kind of things. So there's a couple of other new facilities, residential facilities being built in remote communities. And again, they're being designed by the community. So it's good to see those things more. We need more of them. And one last story on that, Ricky. I was in, again, another service in Brisbane. The land was given back to the community organisation by the government, which was fantastic. And again, that community, those residents are designing that. And when I met with them during one of my visits, the day before, they'd all been out shopping and picking the furniture for their new residential place. So they were so excited to tell me that, the design of the chairs that they got and what their curtains are going to look like. Now imagine that, saying, well, I know I want to live here for the next 5-10 years, but I know I had a hand in the design of what it's going to look like. Every day I'm going to look at these things. So yeah, there's that cultural element. We want to make sure they're in place. But then there's just those other, basic things like, well, what's the furniture going to look like? Is it going to be inviting to me and not someone just telling me this is what the furniture is going to look like? So they were so happy and so, so excited to tell me all about that. So, again, these are just the little things as part of, as I've gone around the country and the conversations I'm having. Yeah, it's about aging, but these things are really important to them. They're telling me things that are really important to them.
And it's been wonderful hearing that, Andrea, and the fact that you've highlighted, collectivism, the approach to looking after our folks rather than the individualistic model, bringing in our communities of care together to really support people and giving people that choice to bring culture into
Mm.
built space. My work in Breast Screen Australia, which we've got the shawl project where we've got our women wearing shawls when they're screening, and I just had this, as you're speaking, this idea that we could have bandages and bedding and everything with designs that our people can make that symbolize health and well-being and uniqueness to the person's own journey so that they feel connected to
Mm.
identity and healing. And it's little things like that, but means so much to someone that they feel connected. And yeah, it just gives me goosebumps when you're speaking. And I wanted to now ask you the future vision. Um, what long term vision do you have for aging within First Nations communities?
So I'm in this role until the new year. I've just about to send my report to government. Hopefully, we'll go to designers this week, and then it'll go to government over the next couple of weeks. And from there, I've made recommendations around what the aged care system should look like for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but also around this position. And that people want to see a permanent commissioner. They want the permanent commissioner to be independent of government and the department, and that's the Department of Health and Aged Care. And they want it to have powers. They want it to have powers to hold the system accountable. So, those decisions are for government, but they're the recommendations based on what community have told me. So hopefully we'll get a response from government around that. My hope is that government and the department take on the recommendations. Again, as I said, Ricky, I wrote the report, but everything in the report is from community. It's from people with lived experience. It's from our elders, and this is what they want from an aged care system. And, a lot of it's not even about money. It's just about making things more efficient and certainly culturally safe, so that, when they go into aged care, whether it's, accessing services at home, accessing services in the community, or actually going into residential care, they're getting the services that, that they need and that they want. So I'm really hopeful that government take the report seriously, and implement these changes, and of course commit to appointing a permanent commissioner.
I want to ask you now, Andrea, a question, I guess, that impacts people like myself, and that is those of us who are from Rainbow Mob. How do you see the role of older folks who are part of the Rainbow Mob, which, for those who may not know, is the LGBTIQ community? What place and space do we have to be part of the journey for planning for aged care?
There's Rainbow Mob, veterans, stolen generations. You know all of those elders and people in who are part of those groups, to make sure that their experiences are also captured. And making sure that the design in aged care, again, takes into consideration your unique needs, what you want from aged care, and again, not this one size fits all. And again, just briefly coming back to stolen generations, people don't want to go into residential aged care. They want community. They want community to look after them, or community centres where they can go and be looked after. So, I imagine veterans and I imagine Rainbow Mob are exactly the same. Let's design and look after what individuals need, what they need and what they want from a system, and not just say, well, here it is, and you've got to accept that system. So, all unique, all beautiful humans, and we've just got to make sure that Rainbow Mob aren't afraid to access aged care because of who you are, and we should be celebrating that, not saying, well, this is the way it's got to be.
We're now coming towards almost the end, but I want to first ask you about your personal insights. You've been in this inaugural role. You've already seen some changes and made some really deep observations. What do you find most rewarding about working with First Nations communities and our elders?
There's probably a couple of things. Definitely the stories. We talk about aged care, and what it's like when you sit down and talk with elders too. You'll have a laugh about things. You'll talk about the serious stuff, and then you'll just talk about general things. And there are a lot of communities I've been to where we'll get through the business. I like to have a yarn too, so we'll get through the business, and then we'll sit down and have another cuppa. And a lot of them told me about see that shed over there, I grew up in that shed. And then they'll tell me about their grandmothers and things like that. So I've learnt so much about different Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. I know mine, but there's a lot I don't know. So I've also been on a bit of a learning journey as well, listening to other mob stories, and so that for me has probably been one of the most rewarding aspects of this role. And secondly, if I get to change, um, if I get to change one or two things that makes the aged care system much better for our mob, and particularly our elders and older people who are in aged care now or accessing aged care, but certainly for the rest of us who are coming through. If I can change one or two things, then I'll be a very happy person. But certainly sitting down talking to elders, and that's the best part of my job.
I want to now take us to, as you may know, I'm one of these doers. Love to get things done and get my hands dirty and put my feet on the ground. What can people who are listening at the moment throughout Australia, who are either mob or those who want to support our older mob, what things can we do right now to get things happening?
I think just connecting with your local community organisations, reaching out to elder support groups, because there's a lot of them around the country as well. Um, you know, Engaging with stolen generation organisations that they're doing a tough job with very little resources, and I know they could be supported. I'm sure there's certainly support through a lot of work that you do, Ricky, and including with Rainbow Mob. So one of the things I'd encourage is to continue being involved in the community. But in terms of what if people have got ideas as well, or they want to see me do
Mm.
other things or support, then absolutely reach out to me. Unfortunately, I don't have my website uh, name in front of me, but I'm easily contactable at the Department of Health. So people can find me there. But I'm I've got a number of communities I've still got to get to. I've finished the formal consultations, but that doesn't mean that my engagements and going around and talking to our elders and their families and their communities about the aged care system is going to stop. I'll continue to do that. So, and where I go, I always put it up on my website so that people know where I'm coming. I try to put things on LinkedIn as much as I can. So I'll continue to do that. But if anyone's got ideas or want me to come and meet with them as well, just sing out, because always happy to have those conversations, either virtually or in community.
Andrea Kelly, I'm just so overwhelmed with yarning with you. You're one of the most authentic leaders we have in our community. You really give so much. You make yourself available, and you actually really care. You're there to make a difference and listen. And I'm just blown away with just speaking with you, and you've given me so many ideas to move forward. And I just wanted to really thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work you're doing for our elders and for those of us who are perhaps looking into getting some more supported care, that you really are making sure that the lights are there for our ways of knowing to be embedded into care so that we can live in trauma informed ways that make the passing over um, something that is yeah, done with care and culture. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Ricky, and thanks for having me.